Welcome to today's explainer. Today we're taking a single, incredibly famous sentence, really a historical maxim, and we're going to transform it from cliché motivational wall art into a highly practical daily action guide. If you've ever felt completely stuck before your day even starts, well, you're in the right place. We're going to look closely at the actual architecture of human momentum so we can figure out how to bypass all that initial friction. So ask yourself right now, what is literally the hardest part of your daily to-do list? Seriously, is it the actual execution of the work? Or is it that heavy, almost invisible friction right before you start? You know the feeling, the self-doubt, the procrastination. Sometimes just staring at a blinking cursor or a totally chaotic inbox feels like you're trying to push a giant boulder up a hill. The biggest hurdle isn't usually physical, and it's not intellectual. It's almost entirely psychological. Actually getting started? Yeah. That is almost always the most painful step. All right, let's dive into section 1, the Roosevelt maxim, which is really our blueprint for action today. Theodore Roosevelt famously said, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." Now, we've all heard the poetry of this sentence, right? But today, we're actually treating this like a mathematical equation for daily productivity. It's crazy, but Roosevelt packed an entire psychological framework into just 8 words. It's literally an algorithm for momentum, so let's break this equation down into its core components. Moving right along to section 2, defining true belief, which is our starting line. Listen, belief, at least in the context of this maxim, is absolutely not just passive hope. It's not just sitting around wishing things will go well or hoping a task magically finishes itself. No way. It is the absolute active conviction in your capacity to initiate and complete a task. It's a driving, highly active mental state. When Roosevelt says believe, he means you are making a conscious executive decision in your brain that the task is already yours to conquer, long before the physical work even begins. Think about it. When you start your day with doubt, you hit this intense cognitive friction. Every single email feels incredibly heavy, your progress is just agonizingly slow, and honestly, you're mentally exhausted before lunch. Why? Because your brain is spending all its vital activation energy just fighting its own insecurity. But when you start with active belief, boom, you generate immediate momentum. That cognitive friction just drops away. You get this sudden rush of mental clarity and proactive energy. You're no longer fighting yourself, you are only fighting the task in front of you. Which brings us to section 3, the halfway metric, or looking at mindset as momentum. So Roosevelt's brilliant premise here is essentially a 50-50 split of your effort. He's proposing that half of your total energy expenditure is simply the power of belief, while the other 50% is the actual work. The cognitive battle of overcoming your own internal friction, that is literal, measurable effort, and it carries the exact same weight as the physical execution. Typing up that report, making the sales call, finally cleaning the garage, that is only half the job. The first half was literally just getting your brain out of its own way. To put that into perspective, 50% of your daily battle is conquered entirely in your mind. If you can clear those initial mental hurdles, you instantly fast forward your progress. By establishing that active conviction, you aren't starting at 0%. You are starting your daily goals right at the 50% mark. You've effectively bypassed half the resistance of your entire day before you've even picked up a pen or touched your keyboard. How cool is that? Okay, let's get practical with section 4, your daily application guide, taking this from a quote to a solid routine. We can actually map this entire philosophy directly into a simple 3-step daily routine. Step 1 correlates right to believe you can. That's establishing your morning mindset. Step 2 is your halfway, claiming the halfway point to really generate that midday momentum. And finally, step 3 is arriving there through actual task completion. It's like a giant puzzle where every single fragment of Roosevelt's quote translates perfectly into a super actionable phase of your workday. So how do you practically establish this conviction before you even open your inbox? Well, start by visualizing the task completely done. Just see it finished in your mind's eye. Next, aggressively reject that initial wave of morning doubt. Seriously, treat it like an uninvited guest at a party. Kick it out. Then actively state your intention out loud if you have to. Say, I'm going to crush this presentation today. And finally, tackle the hardest task first. When you prove to yourself that you can handle the absolutely toughest thing on your plate, your belief just skyrockets for the rest of the day. And once you've dialed in that mindset, you really have to consciously claim it. Acknowledge your massive 50% head start. Don't just do all this mental prep work and then immediately forget about it, right? When you sit down at your desk, remind yourself that you've already done the heavy lifting in your head. You are literally already halfway there. Recognizing this momentum is exactly what sustains it. It's like you're running downhill now instead of endlessly trudging uphill.
Now for the final stretch, Section 5, crossing the finish line and actually getting there.
To actually cross that finish line, you absolutely must ruthlessly focus on just one task at a time. The quickest possible way to shatter the power of your belief is to overwhelm yourself by looking at 50 different tasks all at once. Roosevelt's maxim works brilliantly, but it absolutely requires singular focus. Believe you can do this one thing. Get halfway there on this one thing. Guard your hard-earned momentum by keeping your focus incredibly narrow. Which brings us to our final question for you. What will you believe you can do today? You've got the blueprint now. You know that active conviction completely eliminates friction, getting you 50% of the way to your goal before you even begin the physical work. So, take a look at your very next daily activity and make the conscious choice to just get halfway there right now. What are you going to conquer today? Thanks for hanging out with us. Keep learning, keep applying these ideas, and we'll see you in the next explainer.